Hello and welcome to BADM523, Information Systems for Business Professionals. This is Lecture 2 of the course series. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Tim Anderson, your instructor, as he takes you through this lecture. Hello, Dr. Anderson.
Well, thank you, Hannah. Good afternoon, class. This is Dr. Tim Anderson, as Hannah said. Hannah is my cyber companion as we go through these lectures. She's a great narrator and can speak a lot more pleasantly than I can, so I do use her from time to time to help articulate some of the course materials. I do want to outline some of the learning objectives for this lecture. First is to understand the effects of information systems on businesses and their relationship to globalization. We want to know why information systems are so essential to businesses. We want to define the information systems and describe its management, organization, and technology components. We want to define the complementary assets and explain how they ensure that information systems provide a genuine value to an organization. And also, what are the different academic disciplines used to study information systems? And we want to explain how each contribute to our understanding of them. Finally, we want to explain what is meant by the socio-technical systems perspective. The socio-technical systems perspective holds that the optimal organization performance is achieved by jointly optimizing the social and technical systems used in production. This will help to avoid the mistaken idea that information systems consist of computers or technology alone.
We like to inject current events whenever possible. In an on-air interview on National Public Radio, guest speakers discussed how Americans felt about technology in the future. 59% of Americans believe technological advancement will lead to a better future. 30% believe that life will mostly be worse. An interesting note is that there is no significant differences between age, however there is a difference between genders. 67% of males believe the future will be better, but only 51% of women share this belief.
This is an interesting topic. I was actually listening to NPR as I was driving to the Twin Cities about a week ago, which is about a 2.5 hour drive. And on the NPR interview, they were talking to two people who are research experts. They were talking about people's perceptions of how they viewed the future as it relates to technology. This is kind of an important element to understand, because if there is a separation how women and men believe technology will affect our future, it begs to ask, what does that mean for senior executives who are men and female? Do they also share that same perspective? Is that perspective different, at the senior level of organizations? Because if it is, that sure drives a company in different directions, right? If women perceive technology as being worse for society than men do, will women tend to be more constrained in leading a business to be a little more safe in implementing technology, as opposed to men who might be a little more aggressive? So let's think about this as we kind of go through these topics today. If you want to read the entire interview, I did put that link in the slide, and you can find that in the course content. It was done by the Pew Internet, and it was really a fantastic interview that you can read. So do you feel that information systems are nothing more than technology? Why or why not? Again, we'll talk about this a little more.
Discussing a real-life business scenario that we can all relate to. Guests at Walt Disney World were experiencing long lines, which limited the amount of rides, shops and restaurants that customers could visit. To solve this issue, Disney enhanced customer satisfaction and spending by using information system to spot gridlock and improve crowd flow. Disney implemented an operational command center to use cameras, digital maps, and mobile apps to monitor attendance, registers, and spot and prevent gridlock. This solution demonstrated information technology's role in increasing value and revenue in a business. This also illustrates the potential for technology to improve customer experience. An amusement park is like any other business. It needs to make investments in information technologies to run efficient and effective operations.
So how do information systems transform business? We can do this through emerging mobile digital platforms, growing business use of big data, or we could grow our cloud computing. Some of the globalization opportunities include the internet, which has drastically reduced the cost of operating on a global scale, and the increase of foreign trade, i.e. outsourcing. Both presents challenges and opportunities. To kind of put this in context, new federal security and accounting laws that require companies to store email for 5 years, for example, have spurred the growth of digital information. This is increasing at a rate of about 5 exabytes annually. You might be surprised to learn that 5 exabytes of data is equivalent to about 37,000 libraries of Congress. Think about what difference it makes to the world economy with this kind of growth, or even the U.S. economy. If global operations become much less expensive, what are the challenges to American suppliers of goods and services, and to labor? Total investments is more than $1 trillion in 2012, and more than $540 billion of that was invested in information technology. Why is it that the percentage of total investment devoted to information technology has increased so much since 1980? Other kinds of capital investments could include machinery and buildings. Why would firms increase information technology investment faster than machineries and buildings? The answer can be that capital substitution, the price of information technology capital, has been falling exponentially, whereas the price of machines and buildings has been growing at slightly more than the rate of inflation. Wherever possible, firms would much rather invest more in IT than in machinery or buildings because the returns on investments are much greater. In the emerging fully digital firm, significant businesses relationships are digitally enabled and mediated. Core business processes are accomplished through digital networks, and key corporate assets are managed digitally. Basically what this is saying is that we can communicate via a lot of electronics such as webinars, Skype, and other communication technologies. Internet, we have different kinds of internet capabilities. And also digital firms offer greater flexibility in organization and management through time shifting and space shifting. Time shifting and space shifting are connected to globalization. So I ask you, why are digital firms more likely to benefit from globalization than a traditional firm? One answer is that by allowing businesses to be conducted at any time, which is also known as time shifting, and any place, also known as space shifting, digital firms can ideally be suited for global operations which take place in remote locations and very different time zones. I know being in information technology, we deal a lot with overseas, specifically India. There's a lot of outsourcing that happens over there, and time is greatly different. I believe they are about 8 hours time difference. And so as we're getting off for the day, they still don't start their morning until about 9 o'clock our time at night. At least that was in Central Time. So we would have representatives from our organization when we're dealing with offshore coming at 9 o'clock to make a morning phone call. So they're coming at 9 o'clock at night to make a morning call in India and hand off the work. But the availability of us being able to call them or do webinars over that great distance greatly improves our ability to deliver a comprehensive and flexible product to our customers. We talk about a growing interdependence between the ability to use information technology and the ability to implement corporate strategies to achieve the corporate goals. Business firms invest heavily in information systems to achieve 6 of the strategic business objectives. The first would be operational excellence. Second, new products, services, and business models. The third would be customer and supplier intimacy. 4, improved decision making, competitive advantages, and finally, survival. So how do the various information systems succeed or fail in achieving the 6 strategic business objectives? Think about some other business objectives and think about how IT might help a firm achieve them. For instance, how about if we consider speed to market, which is very important to firms introducing new products? How can IT help achieve that objective? The basic point of this graphic is that in order to achieve its business objectives, a firm will need to have significant investment in information technology. Going the other direction, from right to left, having a significant IT platform can lead to changes in business objectives and strategies. This is a two-way nature of this relationship. Businesses rely on the information systems to help them achieve their goals. A business without adequate information systems will inevitably fall short. But information systems are also products of the businesses that use them. Businesses can shape their information systems, and information systems also can shape a business. So we talk about operational excellence. And one of the things that comes to mind is Walmart. Walmart is the most efficient retailer in the industry and exemplifies operational excellence. Can you name other businesses that you believe can exhibit a high level of operational excellence? Do customers perceive operational excellence? Does it make a difference for customers when purchasing? And what websites really strikes you as being really excellent in terms of customer service? So we talk about operational excellence. We look at the improvement of efficiency to attain a higher profitability. I think Walmart can get products at a very low price, but they also sell in bulk, which allows them to have much more profit. Information systems, technology, is an important tool in achieving a greater efficiency and productivity. And also, Walmart's retail link system links suppliers to stores for superior replenishment systems. Have you ever shopped at walmart.com and said, ship to my store? Those requests go directly to a supplier who then ships directly to a store so you can pick up at your convenience. And they can do this because they can have the inventory systems tied to a supplier systems and vice versa. So allows customers to be able to be much more flexible in where they can buy and when they can buy. When we look at new products, services, and business models, we understand that information systems and technology is a major enabling tool for new products, services, and business models. For example, Apple's iPad, Google's Android OS, and Netflix. Can you name any other new products or business models that you have encountered? And if so, how do they relate to new information systems or new technology? We can think of examples such as green technologies, such as wind, solar, hybrid vehicles. These are always kind of fun topics. How does IT play in the development of these technologies? It used to be that a windmill was just simply 3-4 arms that spin in the wind and generate electricity, but now they're fully automated where they can be controlled from great distances. If you look at a more dark topic, we look at droids who are going into combat where men aren't risked, at least men on our side aren't risked. How does IT play a role in that? If we look at customer and supplier intimacy, serving customers well leads to customers returning, right? Which raises revenues and profits. So example would be a high-end hotel that uses computers to track customer preferences and also is used to monitor and customize the environment for their guests. Intimacy with suppliers allows them to provide vital inputs which lower costs. Another example would be JCPenney's information system which links sales records to contract manufacturers. So what type of companies might rely more on customer and supplier intimacy more than others? And which companies do you believe serve them exceptionally well? How about identifying online sites that achieve a high degree of customer intimacy? Can you think of any? So if we look at maybe a site like Netflix or Amazon or other sites which have recommender systems, we can get a good example. You go on to Netflix and they know which movies you've watched, and so they have recommendations based on what you've watched in the past. Same with Amazon. They have recommendations for what to buy based on your previous buying patterns. That's all creating a level of intimacy. It basically shows that, hey, we know what you like, and so therefore we're going to try to give you products that will really help you going forward. Information systems also improve decision making. Because without accurate information, managers must use forecasts or best guesses, which mainly is just luck. This can result in overproduction or underproduction of materials. Could be a misallocation of resources or poor response times. Inevitably, poor outcomes, raise costs, and lose customers. So an example would be Verizon's web-based digital dashboard, which provides managers with real-time data on customer complaints, network performance, line outages, and so on. Have you ever been the recipient of an exceptional service from a company made possibly by improved decision making? And whether or not the information systems contributed to that level of service, do you think they played a role? So for example, we can look at maybe you had a power outage and it took a very short or very long time for the utility company to correct the error. We talk about power outages. There's a response time, as you know, and the faster a company can bring up the electricity for a neighborhood, the better the customer satisfaction is. Nobody wants it in the dark, obviously. That's a given. But at the same time, we don't think about how much information technology plays into identifying power outages and also enabling how to reroute systems to bring power back online quicker while the main lines are maybe being replaced or repaired. So information systems also can help companies with a competitive advantage. Allows companies to deliver better performance, charging less for superior products, and they're responding to customers and suppliers in real time. Examples again would be Apple, Walmart, or UPS. Achieving any of the previous 4 business objectives that we talked about earlier represents the achievement of a competitive advantage as well. I remember the days when we couldn't work in real time. Everything was static. And I don't know if any of you would remember this, but when we talked about websites, we talked about displaying reports to end users, which was really big in the day. And I would say this probably goes back to early 90s, 92, 93, where we could deliver reports in the banking industry back to customers, even a statement. But it can never be in real time because if somebody made a purchase during the day, that didn't reflect until we ran our processes overnight to be able to update our information. And the reason being is that information took so long to process through that we couldn't do it in real time. Now we're getting at that point, obviously, where you make a purchase and within seconds, if not minutes, you can see that purchase on your account right away. So the faster organizations can respond to customers' needs, the better competitive advantage they'll provide. And finally, the survival one. Information technologies are a necessity of businesses, right? The industry level changes, for example, Citibank's introduction of ATMs, governmental regulations requiring record keeping. The examples would be the Toxic Substances Control Act or the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. Can you name any examples of companies that have failed to survive due to their unwillingness or inability to update their information systems? When we look at the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, this requires that the public firms keep all data, including email, on record for at least 5 years. And can you appreciate why information systems would be useful toward meeting these standards imposed by this legislation? Why would we need to keep information for 5 years, including email? It's basically set to protect an organization. But the fact that we have that ability to store information for 5 or more years, I mean, can you think of the transactions, for instance, that banking goes through? All the transactions, all the purchase histories, all the debit card uses, all that information has to be kept for a quite extensive period of time. If you look at each individual user, that amount of information is not very much. But you take that over millions of customers, and that amount of information can grow greatly. But as we expand our technology abilities, the costs of providing that kind of data gets much cheaper. You can also look at maybe phone companies. When I first got a cell phone, my goodness, that was 1988, I think. And I actually went in college, and I was trying to think about, every time I made a call, it was 25 cents a minute to make that call. Of course, hardly anybody had phones. And now we look at, when we use phones, I can make unlimited amount of calls. I can make an unlimited amount of transactions and so on, and not be charged anything more than what my base rate is. Organizations such as Verizon and T-Mobile and all them are now charging, for the most part, for just data. So if I'm going to do large amounts of streaming of data, that's where I can get zinged. But I also assume that within a very near future, I know Sprint has found out a way that they can provide unlimited data, and I'm assuming that the other companies will as well. And I think they'll need to for their survival. So we look at information systems. If we look at a system, can refer to a set of components that work together, hopefully. Can you think of systems other than information systems? The point of an information system is to make sense out of all the confusing data in the environment and put that data into some kind of order. Information is an ordered set of data that you can understand and act on. So if we want to take you on a quick little tour here, example would be so we look at the Yahoo stock market, right? So in itself, each transaction of a stock would be, just information, but or just data. But we present like a grid like this that shows, the Dow Jones Industrial Average and how it's presenting over time throughout the day. This becomes information. It's something that we can deal with.
This diagram illustrates the distinction between information and data. Data is just a presentation of numbers and text. However, information systems can take data and create information. Information is a meaning representation of data such as total unit sales of dish detergent or the total sales revenues from dish detergent for a specific store or sales territory.
So there are 3 activities of information systems that produce information that organizations need. That would be input, which captures the raw data from organizations or external environments. The processing, which converts the raw data into meaningful form. And the output, which transfers the processed information to people or activities that use it.
Dr. Anderson, please let me explain this one. If we look at a list of students with their ages, we would classify this information as input. When we calculate the average, maximum, and minimum ages, we classify those calculations as processing. The display of the input and processing is termed as output. Think as output as a report or an online report displayed to a user.
Thanks, Heather. When we look at feedback, Its output is returned to appropriate members of an organization to help evaluate the correct input stage. The computer or the computer program versus information systems. Computers and software are technical foundations and tools, similar to materials and tools used to build a house. So if we look at the analogy of how a house works, assuming that the successful information system is like a completed house, computers and softwares only represent the tools and materials used to build that house. The tools and materials don't just suddenly become a completed house. Outside or human input is required. The systems need to be designed to fit the firms and the humans who work within those systems. The point of this diagram is first of all to highlight the three basic activities of information systems so that you understand what an information system is doing at its most fundamental level. The diagram also puts information systems into the context of organizations, i.e. firms, and then puts the firm into the respective environment composed of shareholders, higher level authorities such as government, competitors, suppliers, and customers. You should also see that information systems play a central role, mediating and interacting with all of these players. Hence, the systems play a key role in the operations and survival of a firm. These three themes, management, organization, and technology, will reappear throughout the book. Understanding the interaction among these factors and information systems is known as information system literacy. Knowing how to optimize the relationship between the technology, organizations, and management is the purpose of this book and this course. So looking at this slide, using information system effectively requires an understanding of the organization, management, and information technology shaping the systems. An information system creates value for the firm as an organizational and management solutions to challenges posed by the environment. So we look at organization dimensions and information systems. If we look at the hierarchy of authority and responsibility within an organization, we can see that senior, middle, and operational management, in addition to knowledge workers, data workers, and production or service workers. The highlight means absolutely nothing. I accidentally highlighted it and I can't get it off my slide, so I apologize for that. If we look at page 18 and 19 in the text, it will provide more specific details of each levels of the hierarchy. But can you think about an organization where you currently work or have worked in the past? What was your contact with the senior management, middle management, and operational or supervisory management? Many of you may not have had experience with working with senior managements, but maybe some of you have. So we look at knowledge worker. A knowledge worker is a person whose job involves handling or using information. And operations management is an area of management concerned with overseeing, designing, and controlling the process of production, and redesigning the business operations in the production of goods and services. When we think about middle managers, they are the managers in an organization at a level just below that of the senior administrators. And senior management or senior administrators, executive management, or management team is generally a team of individuals at the highest level of organizational management who have the day-to-day responsibilities of managing the company or corporation. So here's the different levels of the firm using a triangular representation. So business organizations are basic hierarchies consisting of three principal levels: the senior, middle, and operational management. Information systems serves each of these levels. Scientists and knowledge workers often work with the middle management area. Think about how information systems would factor into the day-to-day jobs of each of the three types of workers in the pyramid. If we look at organizational dimensions of information systems, there's a separation of business functions, such as sales and marketing, human resources, finance and accounting, manufacturing and production. Each one has unique business processes, unique business cultures, and organizational politics. There are many organizational factors that will shape the information systems. A common observation is that every business is different. Does this mean that every business will have a different information system? Every business has its unique culture and politics. Systems can reflect these business cultures. For an example of how information systems shed light on a firm's unique business processes and culture, we'll go ahead and look at the UPS interactive session coming up here. And we'll look at the company's packaging and tracking systems to exemplify their commitment to customer service and putting the customer first. When we look at the management dimensions of information systems, managers set the organizational strategy for responding to business challenges. In addition, managers must act creatively, creating new products and services, and occasionally recreating the organization. When we talk about recreating an organization, let's think about what an organization looks like if they've built their own systems within house. For example, in ERP, a lot of times organizations will try to build those themselves, and it eventually just keeps growing as people keep adding on to it. But then it starts getting to the point where it starts becoming inefficient, and a decision needs to be made if an organization wants to eventually maybe integrate a ERP system that's where basically from an outside provider. They would have to replace their internal stuff. The internal stuff is really called a legacy system. It's in-house, it's grown, and it's been around for a while. It's typically what a legacy system is defined as. Leaders, when they start evaluating how effective their information systems are in running the business, they need to determine whether the existing systems are truly working and creating efficiencies, or whether or not the organization is spending a lot of time and money just maintaining and keeping them afloat, as you will. So a lot of times they'll have to occasionally recreate the organization by implementing a new strategy and new programs. In this case, an enterprise relationship processing system to handle the processes within the organization. The other thing we need to keep in mind when we talk about managers acting creatively, they also have to act responsibly. A lot of times information systems are implemented because it's something a manager has on their agenda. They want to be able to get a specific system in-house because it's something they're familiar with, even if it's not effective for the current organization. So there needs to be some checks and balances before implementing information systems. We will in this class talk about return on investment, which is if we're going to spend a certain amount of money on an information system, we need to be able to get money back, right? It needs to pay for itself. Otherwise, it just costs money and it's not generating profitability for the organization. Technology dimensions of information systems include computer hardware and software, data management technology, network and telecommunication technology, which includes networks, internet, intranet, extranets, and the World Wide Web. And finally, IT infrastructure, which provides a platform that the system is built on. It's kind of important to understand the different terms here. When we talk about intranet versus internet, the intranet is typically the same thing as a World Wide Web, but it's contained within an organization. So it's a site that's built inside the walls of the organization, and typically you don't get outside the intranet. It contains information that all the employees have access to, but nobody from the outside can get access to. And so a lot of secure documents can be stored in intranets, but again, the navigating is much similar as the internet. The internet, as we know, is certainly information can be obtained from any source as long as you have access and permissions. You know, that's why we implement usernames and passwords, but we can access anything that's on the internet if we have permission to do so. And finally, the extranet, It's much like an intranet, but it's a information system that's built within the organization, but multiple locations within the organization can access it. So if you have an office in Philadelphia and one in Minneapolis, both sets of employees, both at Minneapolis and in Philadelphia, can access the extranet. It's just one level of security that has to be opened up, so it allows multiple sources, but you're typically on the same framework, so you can access these systems within your organization, even if they are at different locations.
That concludes part 1 of the Chapter 1 lecture. Please locate part 2 to complete the lecture. As always, please post any questions in the instructor discussion forum in the course.